Okay, so installs are going to drive your ticket size, but that's only going to be, sort of one piece of the puzzle. And so here I want to break down the average ticket size over time by month. And so you can see, you might be able to find some holes or some leakage and where you might be leaving money on the table. So I'm going to show you how to create this chart up here at the top, the average ticket size, and also the average ticket size by job type, with the first chart being by month. Okay, so we have the data here, and if you want this file, there's a link in the description, or you can just shoot me an email, and I'll give you my email at the end of this video. Okay, so first what we want to do is we have the job date here, and we need to get the month. It's already here, but I'll still show you how to do it. So if you say you don't have the month here, and that's gonna break everything here. But if you wanted to get the month and you have just a date column, just use the text function. So equals text, and then go to the cell B1 or B2 in this example, and then comma, and then open up your quotations here, and then MM, 4 M's for month. And then you can just double click and then it'll carry down. So now we have the month and everything's working here again. So what we need to do here is let's just create a list. So month, and then if you type in the word January and drag that down to December, then you can get all of the months. And let me show you again. So if you type in the word January and then you see that little green square, if you just drag it down, you'll see all the months. And then once you see December, you can let go, and then it'll give you all of the months. Okay, so first is we just want the average ticket size. Right, so we want to calculate this here in column C, the average ticket size by month. And it's pretty straightforward. The way we do it is we do the final invoice amount, and then we want to average this based on the month here. So in other words, we have January, all of this is January, and we want the average of all of these for January, and then the same for February, March, April, and so on. And so the average here is 2138. You can see down here in the bottom. But let's just double check. So equals, and then we want to use the average. You can use average if or average if s. I always use if s. The difference between the two is that there's two differences. The first difference is with the s at the end, it's multiple criteria. So we only have one criteria here, which is the month. But say you had month and salesperson, then you would have multiple criteria. And so you can use average if s for just one or more, but for average if, you can only use it for one. That's the first difference. The other difference is where you put the average range. Here, the average range is the first criteria, but for average if, it's last. And so either way, I always do average if s. You can do, whatever works for you. But if you're doing average if s, the first criteria that we want to average is the invoice amount. So final invoice amount, comma, and then now the criteria range. So the criteria is January. So where's the range that has the months in it? And it's right here, column C, the one we just created. And then comma, and then you can go back to your starting point and click on January. And you have 2138. So we're good here. I'm just going to center this. And then if you want to make this a $sign, you can click here, which puts it in accounting format, so the dollar's on the far left, or you can press Control Shift and the number 4, and it'll give you just a currency format essentially. And then I'll just remove the decimals. Okay, so now we can just double click here, and it'll drag down, and then now we have sort of the first section here. So now what we want to do is, remember before we said if you have multiple criteria with the average of S, so now we will have multiple criteria. We want these three: install, maintenance, and service. And if you have more, services other than these three, then what we can do is we can use the unique function. So I'll show you how to do it, even though we could just copy and paste that, but equals unique, and then now we want the job type. So if you click here, column F, and press enter, you'll get a unique list of everything. So it's just those three in this example, but there's a good chance you have more. And then now we just want these three, so you can just press Control C, and then you could press Control Shift V, and then delete this. And now you've pasted the values. There's no formula here. And then if you wanted it to be in alphabetical order, then you can just highlight this, go to data, and then sort this way. Okay, so now we want this, and with 3, it's not that big of a deal. We just want it across the top here, but I'll show you a quicker way. So if you highlight this and then press Control C to copy, then you can right-click your mouse and press ST, which is paste special transpose, because we want to take it from a column and put it in the rows, right? And so now we have that. Okay, so now what we can do is we can take the average of these based on the month. So equals the same thing, average FS. And then the first criteria that we need, or the first argument, is we need the average range, which is this again, the final invoice amount here. And then you can do job type first or month first. The order doesn't matter. Job type, comma, and then install, comma, and then month, column C, comma, and then the month here in cell B3. I'll just click here. Excel gets weird with that, but it's essentially going to be, hold on, it sort of throws things off. But starting point, I'll just type in B3. What am I doing wrong here? So data, so okay. So the average, what this is saying is the average for install is $81.98 for the month of January is the average price. And then again, Control-Shift-4, remove the decimals. The thing we need to do now, and I'm gonna teach you absolute referencing. So we want to drag this across and drag this down and autofill. But the problem you'll see is that you get errors. And the reason is because the cells aren't locked. And what I mean by that is whenever we drag this down, this right here in cell D2, install now becomes 81.99, but we don't want that, right? We're not looking for the number 81.99 in column F. We're looking for the word install. So the way we do that is we need to do what's called absolute referencing or relative referencing, which means essentially adding dollar signs before. So I'll show you real quick. If we drag left to right, you'll see that it's column M now, but we need column L, we need column F, we need column C. And so when we drag over, everything goes up one. L becomes M, right? C becomes D, and so on. So the way you fix that is just go into the letters and press the F4 key, or you can put a dollar sign before the letters. So same thing here, and then same thing here. Okay, and then now for the row, because we're going left to right with the install and we want it to go to maintenance, we need to lock the row here and put a dollar sign in the middle of the letter and the number. Because as we go left to right, we do want it to go from install to maintenance. But for the month, as we go left to right, we don't want it to change. But as we go, top to bottom, we do want it to change. And so what you can do there is you can put a dollar sign before the letter, but in this example, the letter B. And now if you copy it and then highlight and then paste, everything is correct. And so now you can see pretty easily, the values, the average ticket size by month. But let's do our chart here. And so all you have to do is highlight these two, go to Insert, and you can click on recommended if you wanted to see different types, but we'll just do a simple line chart. And we'll call it average, average job ticket size. Okay, so we have that. I'm gonna make it black here, and then put it up here, and two things, just sort of some small things. One, I'm gonna decrease the font size a little bit. I'm going to click here and make it white. Make that white. Make this white. And then if you want the values here, just click the little crosshair and then go to data labels. And then you have all of the values. Yeah, and so just like that, we have sort of chart number 1, the average ticket size. And now what we want is we want the average of the 3 types, the 3 service types, the 3 job types. And so what you can do is just type in the word average, and then you can just copy this and I'll pull this down one. So copy this, and then you can paste it here. And then it's the same formula as this one here. We're just removing the month, right? We don't need the month. We just want the average of overall installs. And so what you can do, you can actually just copy this, and I'll type it in the next. And for the maintenance, I'll type it in there. But all we want to do here is we want to remove the red. So we want to remove this part, and then the date column, which is column C, and then this gives us, and then we could copy and paste it over, and that gives us the dollar values, the average by month. But what I'll do is I'll type in this formula just to show you again. So it's going to be average if S, right? First criteria is the invoice amount. And we want to press F4, so if you remember, so we can drag it across. And then the next thing is the job type. Again, F4, because that's the first criteria, the job type, and then we want maintenance. 266, you can press Control C, Control V, and you're good. And so now we have this, and then the final thing to do is just highlight everything, go to Insert, and then Recommended Charts, and you can see that this one is good. This is just like the other one on the other page. I'll zoom out a little bit, and then we can make this actually a lot narrower. Maintenance doesn't look, the maintenance just doesn't look that good. It's just sort of hard to see because it's 266 versus 8,000. So we can do chart design, make it black. Not that one, that one. So here we can do average ticket size by job type. And then same story, if you want to add the values, you can do that here. If you wanted to change anything, you can go into the settings. But anyways, that's all I got for this one. It's been about 12.5 minutes. And so yeah. So if you have any questions on this, just let me know. Just leave a comment. If you want this file, there's a link in the description to download it, or just shoot me an email. You can shoot me an email, questions@databoards.io. And also, I'm going to be putting all of these into a newsletter. I'm working on it now. And so if you would want something like this on your inbox, every Tuesday or Thursday, it's going to be HVAC to start, then just let me know as well. But anyways, if you're not interested in any of that stuff, then I will see you in the next video, because I got nothing else on this one.